U.S. leaders and their Soviet or Russian counterparts have met many times in the more than 8 decades since Franklin D. Roosevelt journeyed to Tehran in 1943 for a summit with Joseph Stalin and Winston Churchill. The Friday meeting between President Donald Trump and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin in Alaska was far from the worst. But it wasn't good either, except from the Kremlin's vantage point. It was not Yalta, 1945, where Roosevelt and Churchill handed over Eastern Europe to Soviet domination, albeit with little choice in the matter. It was not Vienna, 1961, where Nikita Khrushchev was so unimpressed by the young U.S. President, John F. Kennedy, that he was emboldened to build a wall across Berlin and place nuclear missiles in Cuba. It was not even Helsinki, 2018, where Trump humiliated himself and his country by accepting Putin's assurances that Russia had not meddled in the 2016 election over the findings of the U.S. intelligence that it had. The best thing you can say about the Alaska summit is that it could have been worse. Trump did not publicly endorse Putin's demand that Ukraine hand over more territory to Russia in return for a ceasefire, although apparently he told European leaders that this would be the fastest path to peace. Nor was there any deal to relax U.S. sanctions on Russia. If Trump had made concessions on that scale, the Alaska summit would have been remembered as another Yalta. But if Alaska was not a disaster, it was definitely a defeat. Putin walked away the clear winner from his latest encounter with an American president. No deal was announced, but the two leaders heaped praise on each other. Putin flattered his counterpart by insisting that he would never have invaded Ukraine if Trump were president. Why then has Putin more than doubled drone and missile strikes since Trump was inaugurated? Trump looked subdued, but nevertheless gushed over Putin. "Thank you very much, Mr. President. That was very profound, and I will say that I believe we had a very productive meeting." Trump went on to say mysteriously, "There were many points that we agreed on, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there." In the hours after the summit, it became clear that one of the big points on which there was no agreement was a ceasefire for Ukraine. In the days leading up to the hastily convened summit, Trump had threatened Putin with very severe consequences if he did not stop his attacks on Ukraine, and on the flight to Alaska, Trump told Fox News, "I won't be happy if I walk away without some form of a ceasefire." Well, there was no ceasefire, but also no consequences. In a post-summit interview with Fox, Trump said he would hold off imposing new sanctions because the meeting went very well. And then, in the middle of the night, Trump revealed on social media that he had dropped his demand for a ceasefire and had agreed with Putin to go straight to negotiating a peace agreement which would end the war. Trump thereby took the pressure off Putin to stop his vicious attacks against Ukraine. As Putin made clear in the news conference, he has not budged from his demand that any peace agreement must address the primary causes of that conflict. Of course, from Putin's perspective, the primary cause of the conflict is Ukraine's insistence on becoming a pro-Western democracy that does not take orders from the Kremlin. Thus, Putin has managed to play yet another U.S. president for a sucker. This has been a pattern ever since his first meeting with George W. Bush in Slovenia in 2001, when, at the post-summit news conference, Bush memorably said that he had looked Putin in the eye, got a sense of his soul, and found him to be very straightforward and trustworthy. John McCain later quipped, "I looked in Mr. Putin's eyes and I saw 3 letters, a K, a G, and a GB." Indeed, Putin has become expert at using his KGB training and his native guile to manipulate his gullible American counterparts. In his post-summit interview on Friday, Trump revealed that the Russian dictator had even told him that he won the 2020 election and that the election was rigged because you have mail-in voting. The only thing more ridiculous than imagining that Putin, whose primary rival died in prison, is an expert on election integrity, is to imagine that Putin has any brotherly affection for the people of Ukraine, as he claimed in the post-summit news conference. Given Trump's incoherent approach to the war in Ukraine, it is too soon to despair. Trump hinted to European leaders after the summit that he would be willing to extend a U.S. security guarantee to Ukraine as part of a peace settlement. If true, that would be a significant win for Kyiv. Trump is often influenced by the last person he talked to, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is coming to Washington on Monday. Let's hope that the next Trump-Zelensky meeting in the White House will be less tumultuous than the last one, which ended in a shouting match. But it's unlikely to be as friendly as the Trump-Putin meetups.